Okay, so we're going live on YouTube, and I'll start recording with your permission. First of all, how are you this evening, my friend? Okay, allow me to introduce you for a second. First, I have the pleasure of hosting my friend Babak G'breze Tebrizzi, born in Iran as a Muslim, today in the process of converting to Judaism, with an amazing personal journey that led him through, I would say, most of the monotheistic religions. Babak, thank you for joining us today.
You are very welcome. It's a pleasure and honor for me.
Can you please introduce yourself and maybe start telling us your story?
Definitely. My name, that is my ID card name, is Bebak, which is originally an ancient Persian name, which means merciful father. Although some people interpret it as little father. And my family name is two parts. The second part refers to the place of my birth, and the first part means paradoxically either son of the tyrant or son of God. Anyway, I was born in 1965, precisely on 19th July, and both my parents were academic figures, and my father had a very large library with some 1,000 volumes of books. And from early childhood, I started eagerly to read them. They were mostly on religions, literature, history, culture, art, philosophy, and fields like that. And I grew up till the catastrophic 1979 revolution occurred in Iran. And after that, I doubted greatly the originality of my heretical religion and started to study all the main sources available regarding it. My mother used to teach Arabic language and had taught me Arabic when I was a child. So I used the original sources for studying. I read all of Quran. That is the main source for Islam theology, the history of Islam, and a variety of commentary books written by classical interpreters of Quran on it, and also what the Shiites call hadith. There is not that much great difference between the two sects of Islam, I can say. Maybe in some aspects, Shiites, both pronunciations are correct, are more extremist, and in some cases the Sunnis. But the Sunni sect has priority in a temporal dimension. By the way, and in early 90s, I think 1993, I entered a very high governmental organization, that is the Research Center for the Iranian Parliament, as the head and supervisor of the Foreign Bulletin. And there I had access to a very rich source of books, and also free and high-speed internet was available there, because you know that in Iran, internet is very limited, filtered, and of low speed. And I eagerly studied what I think was the complementary things. And in those very days, I came to the conclusion that the religion which I had inherited from my parents and ancestors cannot be the word of God. By saying so, I am not going to insult any Muslim, but at the same time, I have to express the truth I have discovered. And the reality is that you cannot keep all the world satisfied, and you cannot make everyone agree with you. After that, there was created a flame, I can say, within my whole being, in my gestalt, to search for the truth. Is there really a God, or gods or not? And what is the significance and the ultimate goal of the universe, of the creation? And then I experienced a number of successive phases. I was so shocked by my discoveries from Islam that I was an, let me say, atheist for a while. But atheism again was not able to satisfy me, and very soon I left it. And then I moved toward agnosticism. That is, maybe really human being is not able to know the ultimate truth about these things. But I came across paradoxes and contradictions and the lack of harmony between that theory and the reality around me. So I also left it. Then I focused on the ancient Iranian series of religions, which started with Zoroastrianism and then shifted to Mithraism, and then what they call the school of Mazdayatna, and finally what later became the foremost Zoroastrian religion, which is basically based on duality. And after a while, when I say a while, it means maybe some years. I had also to leave it. And in each phase, I tried to study deeply and with full focus, and use a variety of sources available, but both those for and those against the discussion at hand. I was still in Iran when I was acquainted with a Christian priest, and he was very insisting that you can find the truth you are seeking in Christianity. It was the time when some very severe and even fatal problems were created for me in Iran. You know that I used to work for a number of very high governmental and state-run organizations in Iran as a researcher, supervisor, translator, interpreter, and editor. And because of those problems, I had to immediately flee Iran in March 2014 and settled in Turkey for about 8 years. In Turkey, I attended the Protestant church and took part in their services for nearly 2 years. And I started studying both the New Testament and the Old Testament. Of course, it is a Christian terminology. Actually, we do not believe in the two differentiated testaments or covenants. They call it totally the Christian Bible. And there I came across to some contradictions, to some misinterpretations, to some misquotations. And at the same time, I understood that the very conceptualization of Trinity by the Church is vague for themselves. And regarding the divinity of Christ, I also had some problems. At that time, I was introduced to Rabbi Tovia Singer. Rabbi Tovia Singer, who now lives in Jerusalem, was born in New York, Manhattan, and I think for some time was also the chief rabbi of Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken. And he was the founder of a website and actually of an educational organization, of a Jewish outreach organization entitled the Jews for Judaism, which was established to confront another organization in the United States entitled the Jews for Jesus. And I started to listen very carefully to his lectures, which are available on the YouTube. And after a while, I began to correspond with him. We had some correspondence, and in early 2016, I made my firm decision, and I can say my unshakable resolve to convert to Judaism, to Orthodox Judaism. And there I referred to the Turkish rabbinate in Istanbul and talked to them, and they explained to me that till 2013, in some very rare cases, they did it. But after that, due to the immense pressure and threat on the part of the Turkish Islamist government, they were forced to quit it forever. And in 2022, again in March, the Turkish intelligence created some very severe problems for me and offered me three options. Either they would deport me to Iran, or I should work for them, or I should leave the country without any travel document, of course, because the Iranian consulate did not renew my passport for the reasons which are self-evident. And then I had to leave Turkey for the sake of my life, and I came to Switzerland in early 2023, if I remember well. And at that time, I had to live for nearly 2 years in Basel by myself because I had Italian fingerprints, and the Swiss authorities explained to me that I should live a ghostly life for nearly 18 months, which in practice turned out to be 24 months. And in Basel, three people, actually three families, started supporting and sponsoring me. One of them was a Christian family from Germany, and two were two Jewish families from Basel itself. And they introduced me to both the formal Judaic synagogue of Basel and the Chabad synagogue of Basel. And you know that the Chabad is a little bit more cautious with these matters. And they told me that if the other rabbi calls them and tells them that I have started my conversion process, then yes, it is okay for them and I can frequent their synagogue. The rabbi of the standardized synagogue in Boston was a very kind gentleman. But the problem was that they, for security reasons, they had a pact with Swiss police. And the police did not let any person enter the synagogue unless they have a valid ID card. And I hadn't at that time. So I had to wait till nearly 15 or 16 months ago. I had to come to the south of Switzerland, to the southern canton, to the Italian language-speaking canton. Canton in Switzerland, canton means the same as province or state, nearly. And there, because in this canton there is only one synagogue, unfortunately, and again it belongs to Chabad, and I tried to contact the rabbi there, and I wrote him some letters, but he did not answer me, unfortunately. Then I asked one of my former sponsors in Basel to talk to him, and she kindly talked to him, and later she told me that the rabbi in Lugano, it is the name of the city, as well as the synagogue, says that he has a very small community and he has other priorities. And in this way, indirectly, he rejected. But I understand him because in this canton, there is a very large population of immigrant Muslims, and on the other hand, due to the fact that I am originally Iranian, maybe he had felt doubtful, or maybe he had some negative experiences, and consequently, he was not willing to create problems for his synagogue or the community. So temporarily, I did not shift to insistence, and I am waiting for a better opportunity to once again write to him or find someone who might act as a mediator between us. This was the very concise history of the route of the path I had taken. And you know, there is a tradition in Judaism according to which they do not, I cannot say that they do not accept converts, no, but they do not die for converts. Unlike the two other major Abrahamic religions, Judaism does not seek converts. But in some cases, if they recognize that one is, as they say, Gerzedek, a sincere, honest, and true convert who does it for the sake of God, they accept it, of course, after a very long and complicated process. And the reason is that, first of all, according to Judaism, the Gentiles or the nations do not need to convert to Judaism in order to meet salvation. Every non-Jew man or woman can be redeemed if they stick to Noahide laws, or even if they do not know anything about Noahide laws. although they are expected to search for the truth, if he or she tries to be a good man, actually only Hashem or God can judge them. And the other reason is that if someone who is not ready for conversion, who is not made for conversion, convert to Judaism, then he is expected to observe the very heavy burden of Jewish law, 613 mitzvot. And if he does not observe them, he might be judged by God. It is another reason that rabbis prefer not to accept everyone who claims he or she wants to be a Jew. I came to my basic knowledge about Judaism not only by reading books, but mostly from the lectures of rabbis which have been broadcasted online and are available. There is another tradition in Judaism according to which the sages of Israel or the present-day rabbis are recommended not to teach Torah and Talmud to Gentiles. And there has been reasonable justifications for the act. But at the same time, the sages of Israel have prophesied a time that is approaching the Messianic age, the end time days in which we are placed right now, where the teaching should be available nearly to everyone, either Jew or Gentile, at least the basics. And there is a verse in Tanakh according to which at that time, that is the very time we live in, 10 people from Gentile nations with other languages will cling to or will take hold of the robe of a Jew and will say that, let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. I believe that this verse precisely applies to our time. And it is a certificate and a permit for the rabbis to offer their teachings to those Gentiles who are eager to learn about Judaism. And in this way, I started reading the texts and listening to rabbis. And I am here right now, as you see. Of course, there are very other things that I am interested in talking about, which are directly related to the discussion at hand. However, maybe you or your very honorable guests have some questions, and I will answer whatever question put forward with full pleasure.
For sure. So first of all, if someone that watches us wants to ask a question, you can either ask for yourself or write it on the chat, and I will read it for you if you prefer. But I have, first of all, I have a non-spiritual and non-religious question. I think obviously your spiritual journey is fascinating and unique, and we will get back to it. But I would like to speak. It's not every day that our viewers get to speak, to hear from someone who grew up in Tehran or in Iran generally. And we know that the situation between between the Iranian regime and the Israeli state is far from being stable or calm, and that basically we could have, I would say that few people would assess, including myself, that it is even probable that we will see another escalation, military escalation between the countries in the next few days or weeks, months, but it's something that is very probable. And you have a unique perspective because you grew up basically you grew up under the Iranian regime and under the same education and indoctrination that the Iranians that still are in Iran grow under, but you also change your perspective. And today you look at things from a Jewish perspective. And you are a great advocate of the Jewish people and of Zionism in the Iranian community, in the diaspora, and in the West as a refugee, unfortunately. How do you see today the situation on the political and on the military level? And I will specify my question. What do you think that we are about to see in the next few months or years in Iran, between the Iranian regime and Israel, between the Iranian regime and the Iranian people? How do you think it will play out? And from your unique perspective, what do you think that the Israelis or the Jews, what should they be aware of? Or what should they support?
Yeah, I would like to offer my answer at two levels. The level of the government and the level of the nation, which are quite separate and different levels.
Definitely.
The Iranian government is basically and fundamentally an ideological government. And Islam by nature is intertwined with politics. The original genuine Islamic teachings, which are expressed in Quran, have a sort of political dimension. And we have instructions regarding how to gain power, how to expand the territory, how to terrify the non-Muslims, how to press them to surrender. And according this very ideological core, which is the basis of the regime and the major legitimacy of its survival and duration. Without it, the regime will lose its spirit. The regime, in order to survive, not only to be acceptable or justifiable by its adherents and advocates, either within the country or abroad, but also to be acceptable by its own leaders and the ruling elite. It needs to accept to the founding ideology. According to that ideology, they know that the Shiites are a fake messianic cult, and they believe in a messiah named Mahdi. And they believe that in order for that Messiah to appear, to rise, and to come and dominate the whole world and make all people Muslims, and to make all people Shiites. They even consider the Sunnis as blasphemers. It is the genuine Shiite teaching. Also for political reasons, the formal governmental lectures and officials may not confess to it, but it is firmly inscribed and instilled within those teachings. And there are some major obstacles for that gentleman, for that Mahdi to appear, one obstacle is the existence of a Jewish state. That is a major reason they try to obliterate it. And you know that this teaching is rooted in Islamic history too. When the Prophet of Islam migrated from Mecca to Medina, when he was in Mecca, he was weak. He had not that much power. And he tried to receive the support of Jews. Because of that, he first established Jerusalem as a place where the Muslims used to pray toward. But after he migrated to Medina, at that time its name was Yathrib. In Arabic they called it Yathrib. Later they changed it to Medina. Medina means city in Arabic. It is the short form of Madinatul Nabi, that is the name of the Prophet. There he gained power and changed the Qibla, that is the orient of the prayer towards Mecca in Kaaba. And the major Jewish tribe in that city did not accept and recognize him as a prophet. So he ordered all of them to be massacred, the males, and the women to be enslaved. And this, I just want to say that it has of deep root in the practical history, not only in teachings. And there are some hadiths, that is sayings, attributed by the major classical scholars of Islam, both Sunnis and Shiites alike, to the Prophet of Islam, in which Muhammad says that in the end times, the Jews will hide behind stones and bushes, and the bushes and stones will become alive and shout to Muslims that a Jew is hiding behind me, come and kill him. With such teachings, it is quite natural and logical, we shouldn't expect otherwise, that the Shiite regime does its best to eliminate the Jewish state, and it will never give it up. And he spends all of its energy, intelligence, money, sources of interest, and even politics, scientists, industrial centers to do that. And their basic goal is to be technically able to enrich uranium and plutonium at the weaponry level and to install it on ballistic missiles and to attack all cities of Israel and kill all its citizens, even though many Arabs, some million Arabs also live in Israel and are citizens of Israel. So it will never give up. The regime will never give up. And if it sometimes says in an alternate mood, once it says we negotiate, but they pretend to it. It plays like Hamas. They play with words, with time, with practical minor politics. It is their major policy. And then they again return to the same status. And until they exist, they will not depart from this. The nature of the regime is founded in a way that it is unalterable. It cannot be modified. It cannot be changed. It cannot be get mild. It cannot become moderate. And the distinction between the moderates, the reformists, the hardliners within the regime is quite artificial. It is not true. They themselves have created these superficial classification in order to deceive the foreign states. And sometimes when the pressure is much, they replace the government, a hardline government, with a so-called moderate or reformist government. But even them, without an exception, follow the same route, follow the same path, and they search the same goal. The aim is the same, and obliteration of Israel, annihilation of the Jewish population of Israel is their absolute first priority. Therefore, they will continue. And if some reports come from some so-called social freedoms and the like, it is just for the sake of deceit. It is ruse. Those people who walk without any scarf or take part in parties and are filmed and broadcasted for the sake of the propaganda are the very governmental agents. They are people hired by the government just for propagandizing superficial changes in the society, so that maybe the pressure from the public pressure from the West, as well as the sanctions, become lighter and decreased, or else the regime never allows real reformation, and it will continue the same until it disappears. Even when I used to work for an organization named the Iranian Expediency Council, there was a gentleman there who told me that after the fall of USSR, they had imported 12 ballistic missiles with nuke heads from Ukraine, and they keep it in the tunnels in a mountain called Kaflan or Kaflanku. And I asked, so why don't they use them? He said that they lack the navigation electronic chip. That is the reason. And they have not been able to receive it. And at the same time, I was informed that it is before 2000. This news, this piece of news, Iran had gained kilos of red mercury to use it with other small-sized weaponry. And if in that time, which dates back to the initial years of the establishment of the Islamic regime, when Khomeini was alive, he was still alive, they did it. So you can suppose that right now, what they are going to do. Therefore, first, they will never give up their goal. And second, they will never get reformed. Therefore, the only option is the change of the regime, or to make it extremely, extremely, extremely weak and poor. And of course, they shift the pressure of the sanctions to the nation. The regime, its official, and its programs, its plans is the least affected by the sanctions. They have numerous ways people pseudo-organization disguise centers abroad which help them bypass the sanctions. And as Mr. Trump once said, not once, but numerous times, the US administration maybe hopes that the sanctions pressure could lead to an uprising of the people. And in this, though I do not say that it is absolutely impossible, but I assess it of a very, very, very low probability. It is nearly improbable, in my opinion, because the opposition abroad does not enjoy the least unity which is expected from it. There are too many internal disagreements, fights, and superficial approaches, a marginal focus, and unnecessary bureaucracy. However, everyone knows that the real action will belong to the Iranian nation. The Iranian nation, it is getting near to half a century, under nearly half a century of education of the regime, the cultural education, religious education, and part of the economic pressure is purposeful by the regime onto the nation. They want people to feel a relative pressure so that everyone runs from early in the morning till late at night for a piece of bread for himself and his family. And they have no motivation or time or energy to study or to listen to foreign channels or get illuminated. And particularly after a few phases of revolt against regime, when the regime with really unique barbarity suppressed it, and they witnessed it, and they are afraid. They fear, and they are human beings. They are not Superman or Wonder Woman, and it is understandable. And the educational system of the regime has made a large section, a considerable part of the society, a gray portion. That is, they have become indifferent. They have become sort of souls which only seek for their financial benefits and seek their expediency, and they do not want to risk, not only to risk their lives, but also they avoid risking their social status, their sources of income, though it is very low. There are few strata in the society who are brave, who are informed. It is still a minority. Of course, a majority of the Z generation know the truth. And a large part of the Z generation are brave and courageous enough, in my opinion, but they lack any organization, and they share the very fear and still the memory of those failed uprisings remain in their minds. And the internal propaganda politics of the regime is very strong. They have started displaying street concerts and shifting this program's time to other time so that the people would be amused. And false and fake hope might be created within their minds that, well, maybe the regime is gradually getting reformed, because the only way for the redemption of the Iranian nation is toppling the regime. But they feel that maybe this phase will be permanent and more freedoms. This is not the goal. It will be one of the hundreds of the consequences, of the positive consequences of the major role. And the regime has played this cognitive deceitful drama many times. For the most prominent one, and maybe the initial one, belonged to the time of President Khatami. At that time, more social freedoms became prevalent in Iran. Also, he was also the one who ordered a very brutal suppression of the Tehran University's uprising. At that time, I was studying for my master's degree in the University of Tehran, and I myself witnessed the barbarity of Mr. Khatami's police, both formal police and the disguised police. And it was the very case with Mr. Rouhani, who is doing his best to be the rival to the successor of the present supreme leader, that is a rival to Mr. Mujtaba. And even if Mr. Rouhani succeeds, I guarantee 100% that no tangible change will ever occur. And if you read the unclassified or disclassified information, you see that they have started to rebuild the damaged nuclear site, and they are also building some new sites, both for nukes and for ballistic missiles. They have hired new scientists and they have resumed the program. And they very assertively, very outspokenly declared that they are seeking to increase the enrichment of plutonium and uranium, and they do not seem to intend to positively negotiating with the International Atomic Agency's inspectors, and they just buy time and play with words. It is their permanent policy. And of course, the powerful Western countries know that. You know that in the United States, the Republicans, which are inspired by a classical unification between the left and the Islamists, which is a separate discussion, a very interesting discussion itself. There were two friends of the Iranian regime, and the Republicans, particularly Mr. Trump, although he desires to create significant changes both in the region, in the Middle East, and also in Iran, both in particular and separate from that plan. But well, he is not what can I say, a miracle maker. He cannot do everything desirable, and he has to follow some politics. He has to prioritize his own nation's, his own country's interests, and it is quite natural. The Iranian regime is also unique in that he never prioritized the interests of her own nation. He considers the Iranian nationalists her first-class enemies, but other normal, acceptable regimes prioritize their own interests, and maybe if the United States intends to make a military invasion and change the regime, it will not be that much in line with American interests, or it will be a very heavy burden for the United States. United States has also considered the interests of her European ally, her NATO ally, and you know that Europeans by spirit, they are businessmen, and many of them have good business interactions with the Islamic regime. The Iranian regime provides them with many cheap purchases and contracts, and they prefer to tolerate it in a way, and they suffice to superficial, limited, relative changes. When we consider all these facts and factors, we come to the conclusion that maybe Israel is the only real state government in the world that truly wants to topple the Iranian regime. But it is not possible through a series, not only 2 series, more series of just limited attacks by airplanes or missiles to the nuke sites. And if otherwise, because the Iranian regime, just like Hamas, willingly abuses its own people as human shields, the civilian fatalities will be very high. And the boots on the ground is very consuming and expensive and risky, and we do not expect Israel to do it alone. Her allies like the United States should help him. The only potentially positive alternative is that the intensity of the bombardments and their rapid succession may bring about a situation in which the majority of the Iranian people who are not with the regime in heart take courage and be brave enough for a collective uprising, that could go on maybe for days and nights until the regime falls. But the experience shows that it is a very far probability. The regime is very brutal, and the people not disappointed but are tired. The people are also tired. And for this kind of uprising, a majority of people are needed, not just a minority. And that majority should be able to remain on the streets maybe for weeks, not just for 1 or 2 nights. And in present circumstances, it is not a realistic view. The other option, which some experts suggest, is weaponizing the people, but it is not easy to distinguish among who is the true opponent and who is a hypocrite. There is a widespread hypocrisy. The disguised agents of the regime, even many of the people who work for the regime, not the higher officials or commanders, the body of the organs, even the military organs, if they feel that the regime is about to change, it is possible that they return to the people and the people find courage. But reaching that stage, if not impossible, is very, very, very hard. That is all.
Understood. So first of all, I would like to again invite the members of this chat, if they like to ask something, to raise your hands if you like to speak, or write on the chat if you like me to read your question. I have a very interesting question for you, meanwhile. You, as someone who studied Judaism, I think it's obvious, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably learned the issue of Megillat Esther and the story of Purim, which happens, of course, in Iran. And I guess that you also learned the same story while you were still a Muslim in Iran. I guess that you also learned it from the Iranian perspective, or the way that they teach it on the education system of the regime. So maybe, and I'm sure that for Israelis that are quite familiar with the story in Jewish tradition, they never heard the side of the story that is being taught in the Iranian schooling system or the Iranian culture that is under the regime today. So can you please share us?
Definitely, definitely. Just an introduction about the Iranian Jews at present. The Iranian Jews are under very heavy pressure from the regime. And for the sake of their lives, they have to pretend. Even the major rabbis, when inside Iran, that they support the regime. They are forced to take part in formal state-run demonstrations. And the majority of the Iranians who are not Jewish have no access to the true teachings of Judaism. Therefore, many of them have adopted and accepted the regime's distorted narrative that Purim is the celebration of the massacre of Iranians, of persons.
Maybe you can just, because that sounds very strange to Israelis, maybe you can just explain to us how this story goes. I mean, if they would tell the story, how would it sound like? What's their version?
The Iranian regime distorts the story greatly and says that it is, first of all, an unreal narrative, and it was just an excuse for the Jews at that time to massacre the Persians. It teaches so. Also, the tomb of Mordecai and Esther are in Iran, in a city named Hamadan, which is the ancient Ekbatan. And sometimes they say that they are fabulous figures and those tombs are empty or other people lay in them. And sometimes say that, they were just, they were manipulated. Their sayings were manipulated at that time for the Jewish military and political leaders to massacre Iranians, but they do not provide the people with any details. Who were those Jewish communities? Who were those leaders? How this happened, when it happened? And they offer very large numbers with many zeros in front of them, that this amount of Iranians were killed at that time. And this is one of the most ancient blood libels, the story of Purim. There are many other libels. If you search the propaganda videos by the regime on the YouTube, you come across very wide spectrum of blood libels, and it is not limited to Purim or Mordechai. They even say that the Prophet of Islam was poisoned and killed by a Jewish woman who was one of his slave wives from the very tribe of Bani Qurayza in Medina. So from the start up to the end, they used blood libels, and regarding the Jewish state, they expanded. And it is interesting that they have dictated the Jewish leaders in Iran to talk about Purim and to repeat the same things, and to talk about Zionism and the Jewish state, and to demonstrate that it is against the Torah. And all the Tanakh translations available, either those which are newly printed by the regime, or those which are reprinted by the regime with revisions, of course, but were originally printed before the rise of the regime, they have censored and changed the translation and altered the key parts regarding not only Purim, but the end times and the Cyrus part in Isaiah, for example, and the Iranian jurisprudence, high jurisprudence is ayatollah. Many of them deny the existence of virus, for example, and they say that the books which Jews use is fake books, and they themselves have written them, and they have altered them, and the Torah and the books of the prophets have been lost. And it is very interesting that in Quran, it is mentioned in one verse that Abraham was the first Muslim. And after some time, it is mentioned that elsewhere, Moses was the first Muslim. And somewhere else, it is mentioned that David was the first Muslim. And but people never discover these contradictions, or if they discover, they do not dare talk about them unless in private parties and behind the closed doors. But I believe that the Z generation is getting informed day and day, more and more informed. And maybe because they are young, they are courageous. If there is any hope for any revolt on the part of the nation, so it could be possible, implementable, not exclusively by the Z generation, but with the leadership of the Z generation. Therefore, the cultural capitalization should be focused on Iranian younger generations. The internet, the satellite channels, those which are informative, illuminating, should program in a way that they could address the Z generation and inspire with them more information about the truth in all the aspects we discussed, and also create with them hope and courage.
Amazing, thank you. So again, another opportunity for our friends to ask something if they would like to, and two more questions from my side that I think are very, very interesting. So first of all, in your personal spiritual journey, you went through, it was a station, but you went through Zoroastrianism, which is the old faith of the Iranians before the Islamic conquest. and basically it's considered to be an extinct religion. Now, there are all sorts of rumors and talks about people inside Iran mostly, and also people in the Iranian diaspora, that I think that's probably the same kind of route that you're in. They were looking for alternatives to Islam, and by default they went to search the old religion of the
Yes.
people before it. But also, so on one hand, there are rumors that there are actually people who believe in Zoroastrianism in Iran in growing numbers. And on the other hand, there are rumors that say that this is just an act of sort of an act of defiance to regime, but it's not really a living religion that people worship, study, etc. First of all, I think that we would like to hear at least a few words about Zoroastrianism. I think that most Israelis never heard of it. They don't have any idea what it is, basically. And second of all, what's going on today with this issue in Iran? Is it really something that is gaining audience or just a shallow trend?
You know that Zoroastrianism as a religion became systematized and formal in Sassanid Empire. Sassanians were the last great ancient Iranian empire before the fall of the regime. Until that time, Zoroastrianism was not formed into a formal religion. Actually, Anushirwan, the king of kings of ancient Persia, formalized it. There were magi's in the court, and their school was prior, before and after that formalization. The ancient magi's, and you know the story of the magi's that was adopted and actually adapted, not only adopted, by the Christians. And before that, the very ancient Iranian religion was thought of a religion which was similar to the ancient Greece. They had multiple gods and goddesses. But as time passed, the status of many of those gods and goddesses was lowered, and they were changed into Sorush, means the messenger, angelic messengers. So they gained the status of messengers, but there was still gods and goddesses. And the Sassanid kings were crowned in a city in Iran named Kangabar. There is a temple there called Anahita Temple. Anahita was the goddess, ancient Iranian goddess of water. And we have also Mitra or Misra, which was the god of the sun. And these are very ancient deities. It is said that what Zoroaster did, he emerged all these divinities into a group of lower deities, not at the same status as the supreme god. And he called the supreme god Ahura Mazda. But this supreme god has a counterpart, an evil, which is called Ahriman. This duality has been reduced, that is less foregrounded. It has gone to the background when the Zoroastrianism was formalized. Even at the time of Khosrow Parviz, there was an attempt in court to make a monotheistic version of Zoroastrianism. But the root, of course, Professor Dana is much more knowledgeable in this regard. If you can ask detailed questions from him about these things. But the effect of Mithraism, which is a purely dualistic religion, is quite evident in Zoroastrianism. It is interesting that both these branches, that is Zoroastrianism and Mithraism, have their roots in a more ancient religion about which few people have heard. It is called Zoroanism. Zorwan in ancient Persia means time. It was the primordial element. It is similar to Saturn in ancient Greek mythology, which married Gaia, the earth, and produced the Titans before the Olympian gods. This Zorwan is unique, and it is like some animals who have no male or female counterparts. They themselves make themselves pregnant. And this Zorwan had a twin within its womb. And I strongly believe that this is a direct adaptation from Torah. That is from the story of Jacob and Esau. These twins within the womb of this Zorwan, which was the time, the elemental, the primordial element, and one day Zorwan addresses the twins in its womb. I say it's because Zorwan actually has no sexuality. It is sexually neither male nor female, or maybe both of them. He says that whoever comes first out of my tomb will be the god of light, the god of sun. It will be very handsome and very good smelling and white and shining. The second one will be the opposite of all these. And if that third one was going to give natural birth, Ahura would come first. But Ahriman finds a knife from where God knows and tears down the womb, and it comes first and addresses Zorwan and says, I came first, therefore I should be the good one. Zorwan says, no. Apart from an addition to all those negative aspects, the deceit is also added to your characteristics. You will be an evil, deceitful, bad-looking, bad-smelling, bad-colored God. And then he gives to Ahriman. Later, Zorwan was deleted from the scene by the Mithraism, but that duality has been adopted and preserved and injected into the ancient non-Aryan religion of native Iranians. Of course, there are different theories in this regard. Some theories deny the classical immigration or even the altered immigration theory of the Aryans. The altered theory says that they immigrated in some phases from different regions, and there were in the middle phases they returned to their origin and again immigrated. But it seems that there were people who were native to the Iranian plateau, and they had many gods and goddesses that were preserved in ancient Iranian religion, which was the injection of Mithraism to that ancient religion. And it created what we call the Masayastan school. And this becomes the basics for formal Zoroastrian, all these elements. Also in the former religion, many of the prior elements were either deleted or altered, and also some new elements were added. As you said, for some Iranians, it is a serious matter. They are not much. They really look at it as an alternative religion for Islam. But
They still believe it.
yeah, no, not the Zoroastrians, not the original Zoroastrians. There is a minority who are the remnant of ancient Zoroastrian in Iran. They do believe it. I mean, non-Zoroastrian, the Muslims who want to change their religion inside Iran. Zoroastrianism, because it belongs to the ancient Iran, and the ancient Iran was the era of kings and queens, and this reminds them the Pahlavi dynasty. It reminds them that golden age of Pahlavi's governance, and they feel that the real honor and their real origin and their true lost and missed self is in returning to the ancient roots. Therefore, this theme has a great attraction for them. But many of them really don't have much time or sources available to study this in all details. Therefore, they suffice just to study a few themes, and most of them, unfortunately, many of my countrymen have become, I don't want to use the word lazy, but even they want me to send them audio files. They don't have the mood to study the text files to read. And many of them just listen to lectures online about this theme and learn from that. They never go and find the original sources and spend time and energy to discuss them. But still, I think that it is good. Here, I just forgot some point regarding the converts. I just want that first. I want to say very briefly, because I know that we may have not much time.
With that point, okay?
Can I say or wait for?
You can say, but let's.
Yeah. This is very interesting. Of course, a minority of rabbis believe that a Gentile converts to Judaism and becomes a Jew, either his soul is replaced with a Jewish soul, or it is upgraded. But the majority of rabbis believes otherwise. The first place in the Tanakh I came across the conversion theme was when I was still a Christian. Of course, I studied it in Iran when I was an atheist at that time. Was the Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther. Actually, according to tradition, Megillat Ruth. Actually, according to tradition, Ruth is believed to be the first real convert, and we know that she is the grandmother of David, and in this way, the grandmother of Mashiach himself. And when this Ruth, after losing her husband, and unlike her brother, tells her mother-in-law, who was a Jewish, when she wanted to leave Moab for, her name was Naomi, if I remember well, for Bethlehem, her birthplace, says that, take me, wherever you go, I will go with you. Your God will be my God, and your people my people. I was so excited when I first read this verse at that time that I decided Christianity does not fit me. And I searched and searched and searched, and then found Rabbi Tobias Singer. After Hashem, I owe my conversion to this man. He is both a very nice person, personally, and at the same time, a full scholar, not only of Tanakh, but also of Christianity. And he also knows a lot about Islam. He is all-inclusive, or we say the ancient word for it is, I have forgotten, I'm growing old, it is a sign. And in Deuteronomy, we have a very interesting verse. When Hashem addresses the people standing at the foot of Mount Sinai, first Hashem quite frankly says that this is my covenant between me and all of you who are standing here, both those who are Israelites and some of you who are converts, non-Israelite converts. He uses the term there. And he continues, and he said that this is my covenant with you, that is with that combination of a majority of Israelites and a very lower minority of non-Israelites who are converts, with you and another group. What is that another group? It is subdivided into two other groups. It says that both with those who are standing here with us, it does not belong to that multitude because it was discussed before in the previous verse. So it is another part. It refers to another people who are there. Who are there except those people? The commentator says that it belongs to the souls who were there. And Hashem adds, and with those who are not there. The third part refers to the later generations forever of the Israelites and Jews, to the later generation of that multitude. But about the middle part, the commentators says that God also offered, but before the Israelites, God had offered the Torah to all nations. They had rejected it. And then simultaneously with that multitude, God offered the Torah to all souls, to non-Jewish souls there. And some of them accepted the covenant. And God decreed that these souls later in time will be incarnated within non-Jewish bodies, that is, within bodies who belong to non-Jewish families. And in particular times, they will be recalled and they will feel an urge to join Judaism, and they will. In Judaism, they are called, if I do not mistake, Gerzedek, the genuine converts. That was the biblical background of conversion. I just wanted to add to my discussion.
Thank you for that. It was fascinating. And yes, Gerzedek, yes.
Yeah, it is written down.
Exactly. So we're coming to the end. If someone wants to ask something or to add something, this is the best time to do it.
Definitely.
And also for you, I would invite you to say anything that you think that you should have said but didn't have the chance so far. Your message to the Israeli people.
You know that I am basically a religious people. So I may message the Israeli people from all parts of the spectrum, those who are religious, those who are non-religious, those who belong to the right, to the left, the secular ones, the non-secular ones, that one thing is absolutely certain: Israel will win. Israel will finally win its wars. But it may not be easy. There will be some turbulence. There will be some problems. People may suffer for some time, but finally they will have the pleasure to see the final victory, which will change the whole world, not only Israel. You know that it is my ambition. It has been my ambition to make Aliyah after I become convert. But there are some reasons that may block it for some time. For some reasons, for the security reasons particularly, which is not relevant to me, to some other people. I do not want to talk about it right now. I said this because if I message the Jewish people in diaspora, they may say that, well, you yourself, why are not making Aliyah? I will make. First of all, I should complete my formal conversion process. And then I should make secure my family, which live in a very secure position right now. And it will take years. After that, I will definitely do it. I first addressed the Jews living in diaspora. Those who are Zionists or advocate Israel, so much the better. Those who do not, I beseech them to reconsider their status. I ask them just to analyze and to listen to those who advocate Israel and to judge to those who are religious based on Torah and real interpretation. And after Hashem, they themselves be the judges of themselves. And the others and all of them, I invite them to make Aliyah to Israel. Their migration will make the nation more strong, definitely. And Israel will be able to destroy her enemies easier. And I also invite the opposing socialist strata, within Israel to unify. The division has only one consequence, the failure and the weakness. It is something that harms all, not just one party. If two parties, if two sections, if two strata make division and conflict each other, all the nation as well as the state suffers from it. Please put the disagreements aside and unify it and make us strong. Make a strong unity within the nation. And for politicians, the same advice is addressed. And as an Iranian, as far as I know, Israelis know the truth about Iran. All of them will know that there is a binary opposition between the nation, the majority of the nation, not all of them maybe, the majority of the nation and the government. There is an opposition, and they are like the opposite poles of a magnet. So when they address government, they automatically exclude the nation and vice versa, and they know it. Regarding Cyrus Accords and the future of the relationship between Israel and Iran, it is a rather long discussion, and I prefer to address it in another opportunity, if possible. And particularly regarding the end-time theory and Torah verses, as well as a series of facts and realities. But my message for the Jewish diaspora is making Aliyah, and my message for the endeared, most dear of mine, Israeli public, is to put aside division forever and make a strong unity. Your unity is like a thorn within the eye of all your enemies. Do it, please.
Thank you so much, dear Bebak. I to end by quoting the words of Ita, our Ita in the chat. Welcome back home. Whenever the time will feel right for you, welcome home. Welcome back home to Israel. We will wait for you in open arms.
Thank you very much indeed.
And I hope that the day is soon. And of course, before that, we will have opportunity to discuss the Cyrus Accords and other important topics. For this evening, thank you so much again, my friend. The journey is unbelievable, and we definitely learned a lot from you.
You are very welcome indeed.
Thank you so much for that. Have a great evening.
You too. And I would like to thank all the potential addresses and audience of this program. All of them are welcome to send their questions and concerns